Senator Johnson, then Senator Kane.
Hey, Mr. Chairman. I'll ask all of you, anybody think we've got a great tax system? Anybody want to raise your hand and defend it? Anybody want to say that it's not a big old mess? So, first of all, my point always is what we ought to have done in 2017, what we ought to do now is simplify it and rationalize it. I never liked the word tax reform. One of my favorite sayings is, all change is not progress, all movement is not forward. And so we've just continued to complicate our tax system, and it really hasn't helped out a whole lot. One chart, speaking of charts, that I always found pretty interesting was this one that shows the top marginal tax rate in the pink block, and then this is since 1959. This is 60 years worth of history. As we've tried to punish success with this tax rate as high as 91%, 70%, 50%, it's kind of moderated down here a little bit below 40. But on average, we're able to collect about 17.3% of GDP in revenue. Now, I realize there's a lot of tax deductions, but still, it just seems like there's sort of an immutable reality that as hard as you try to punish success by increasing tax rates, you're just not able to squeeze much more than 17 to 18% out of our economy. Mr. Hodge, do you have any explanation for this?
Well, as long as we try to tax income, we're going to, and as long as Congress is going to have various deductions in the tax code, you're going to get those kind of results. If we move toward a more consumption-based tax, it'll be a lot steadier and a lot more efficient, and we won't have to resort to those kind of levels.
Mr. Bartlett, I would say you'd probably agree with Mr. Hodge in terms of simplification would be moving more toward a consumption-based tax as opposed to an income-based tax.
Oh, yeah, I think that's one area all economists agree on, that at least from an economic point of view, taxing consumption is better than taxing income. The problem, of course, that you run into is that it's a highly aggressive form of taxation, and it's hard to offset the higher taxes that the lower income levels would pay.
I think another problem is if you add it to an income tax, you just end up raising massive revenue, which I do believe does hurt economic growth. One question I always try and ask are those witnesses that are proposing more progressivity in our tax code. So I'll ask Mr. Kogan and Ms. Jacoby, what do you think is the maximum tax rate any American should pay on $1 of income? Mr. Kogan.
Sorry. Thank you, Senator. I think that the maximum, you're talking about the average or the
No, I want you, what would you, again, if you're
sure. So
one of these wealthy guys that are, reinvesting their money and building a factory and providing jobs, I mean, how much do you want to tax that, that wealthy individual? What's
Sure. So Professor Saez estimated that probably the Laffer curve would end up at around 73%. So I think probably if you're going above 73%, you're no longer raising revenue. You could be going up there, but part of the issue is that—
I want your opinion. So you think we should have a top tax rate of 73%?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. What I meant to say is part of the issue is where the marginal rate is not really capturing is not really capturing your effective rate. I mean, part of the issue here is—
No, again, this is actually a pretty simple question. What is the maximum amount the federal government ought to take on $1 of income? What's the maximum amount? What's the maximum percentage?
Senator, I think it depends what has been happening below that rate.
Mr. Kobe, maybe you'll give me a straight answer. I mean, what in your dream world, if you could design a tax code, what would be the maximum rate you'd tax on income?
Yeah, I think your question is an important one to think about, but I think before we even get there, the tax code has to make sure that wealthy people are paying any tax at all. The way
why can I never get an answer on that?
Because
it actually just amazed me. What's so hard about saying, I want to tax income at X%?
The question is, it takes away a lot of important context about the way the tax code is structured that allows wealthy people to avoid tax for their entire lifetime.
Again, I started this thing talking about simplifying and rationalizing their tax code. So I'm envisioning a very simple tax code. You know, I don't want to socially or economically engineer through tax code. I want to raise the revenue we need with as little friction as possible. But again, I need from progressive witnesses, what is the maximum tax rate you're looking for? You want to quick take another stab before I run out of time here?
A simpler tax code would treat different types of income the same way, and right now it doesn't.
Precise, okay, let's assume that. Everything's treated the same. It's all treated, there's not different definitions. Income is income. A dollar is worth a dollar. How much you want to tax it?
When we get there, we can talk about a number. I'm not prepared to give you a number.
That's
Senator Kane.
That's cop-out.
Thanks to the witnesses, and I'm sorry that I missed the opening discussion. I feel like I've come into one in midstream, but so I'll probably